Good afternoon. Today, going through the factory, I realised that I've got a couple of different flow sensors, different types of flow sensor that were in the factory to be terminated for a customer to have the military spec Amphenol connector for the Halma Radcom data logger, which is a 4-pin, and they were going to be terminated with those so that they could be fitted to a logger on site and used. I realised that that's a good opportunity for me to demonstrate the pulse test unit, checking the flow sensor prior to me actually terminating them with a connector. I also thought it was a good opportunity to show you the bare wire operation of the pulse test unit and using these two sockets, and how to test the flow sensor to ensure that it's operating correctly. The two units that I'm going to demonstrate today are the commonly known T-Probe, V100, V110 T-Probe, which looks like that, and the other sensor that I'm going to demonstrate is the PR6, which is exactly the same really to the PR7, apart from the PR7 goes on a larger meter. That's the Elster PR6, and this will be terminated shortly for the customer. I thought I would demonstrate how both of these can be tested using the Agua-Tek pulse test unit. Both flow sensors obviously come in their own packets. This is the T-Probe type. It has a little screw which I will leave in the bag, which actually inserts once being fitted onto the water meter itself. There's a little hole, I don't know whether you can see it very well there, but we have the cables which are enclosed in a rubber sheath. Remove that, and then if I undo these little wires, you can see that we have a selection of wires, two of which will have the signal coming from the flow sensor itself, and there's the 4 different wires. Now, I happen to know on the V100 T-Probe that the actual wire connections to use are actually the red and the blue, and I'll demonstrate how I test this particular flow sensor in a second. I'll just reposition the camera to give you a better view. Okay, now I've repositioned the camera, I'll demonstrate which wires and where to put them into the pulse test unit to test the T-Probe flow sensor here. So firstly, I've switched the unit on, as you can see there, and I'm going to use the test unit side with the negative or black and red positive inputs for the flow sensor. So taking the bare wires, as I said earlier, I do know that it's the blue and red, and on this particular sensor it doesn't matter which way round they are. It isn't polarity sensitive because it is merely just a switch closure that we're looking for. So what I will do is I'll insert the blue into the black, and you'll notice that I'm being very careful to make sure that it goes onto the metal conductor, not the sleeving. It is possible to trap the connector onto the insulated sleeving and not the conductor, and if you do that you won't get a reading. So if I now do this one and pop that into the socket there, so we now have the blue and red connected into the jaws of the connector on the right hand side, and we can see there that currently it's showing zero or no flow rate. And if I, again, as I demonstrated in a previous YouTube video, if I click on the total button, there's no volume of water that has gone through the unit. Now, what I would use to test the unit is just a basic magnet. That's a neodymium. It's a very strong magnet. And basically all you do to test it is basically, if I can get the display so you can see it, is you'll actually pass the magnet across the sensor at this point. And what you should see is that you get a reading of pulses as they go. I don't know whether you can see the asterisk on the right hand side moving up and down as I pass each one of those. So that actually confirms that the unit is working. Now equally, what you could do is remove those connectors, and as they say on Blue Peter, here's one I made earlier, and this particular flow sensor, they're exactly the same type. T-Probe has the Radcom 4-pin connector, and all I would do to test this, what I'll do is I will, as we're in total there, you can see that it's recorded the pulses that I put through the meter. If I go back to the flow rate, you'll see that it's zeroed itself. But what I can do is I can connect the Radcom connector into the correct socket, just on like that. Hold that up again so that you can see the display, and again holding the T-Probe portion, if I wave the magnet in front of, trying to do it without blocking the display, you'll see that we're getting a flow rate now, which is the magnet passing across in front of. Basically what is in there is a reed switch which closes every time the magnet passes the sensor, and that indicates that that flow sensor is actually working. Now, depending on where you are in the country, obviously you need specialised equipment to test the reed switch type flow test units, and if you're in Scotland you would need this, or is it just a magnet? And again, just by passing the magnet in front of the unit, it is possible. So no real specialised equipment is required to get a pulse. Any basic magnet will operate and give you a flow rate, and that's the basic reed switch type flow sensors. They would all operate in that manner, that you would need a magnet. Now I'll demonstrate the PR6. So what I'll demonstrate next is the PR6 flow sensor, and if we look at the instruction manual, looking at the top here for the UK, you'll see that actually the channel 1 or primary is the yellow wire and the ground is the black wire. So what we'll do is, as we did with the previous pulse test unit, we will put the black wire into the black connector and the yellow wire, which was the channel 1 primary on the PR6, into the red. Now as you can see on this particular unit, as standard before they're terminated, they actually come with some quite nice insertion type connectors, so it's a lot easier to pop them into the special quick fit connector without trapping them onto the insulation. Now if I just pop that down for a second, what you will have to do is, you'll see, and they do try and give you a clue, it does say remove before installation. There's a a little strip over the top of the sensor. Now when placed on the water meter, this particular section here, due to these fixing holes here and here, actually place that over a Cybel type unit that's on the head of the water meter that you're fitting it to. And I don't know if you can see, if I get the light just right, can you see there are 3 indentations, just little indentations in the plastic that you can see there. And there's also a little tamper switch which also appears to switch these units on and off as well. And as I say, this is the PR6 unit that we're just going to check that is working here. So I'll turn it over again. I've removed the protective strip there, and actually all you need to test the PR6 is very simply a piece of metal, and I tend to use a screwdriver bit. I just take the screwdriver bit out of the unit. You can see it's just a simple screwdriver bit. And what I do at the moment, since I haven't got enough hands, I'll show that the display is currently at 0. No, it's not. Tell a fib, because it's on totals and it's been counting up. But what I'll do is I'll put it onto the flow rate sensor there. If I switch it on and off, it'll actually demonstrate that. If I switch it on again, put it, it's on 100 litres of pulse, it doesn't really matter. You can see that the flow rate is at 0, but now I've switched it on and off. If I go to the totals, they've reset to 0 as well. So what I'll do is I'll just pop that down. I don't know how well we can see the display there. And the way to test one of these is I'm going to, using my thumb, I'm going to hold the little black button down, so that's depressed, and then I'm going to get the little screwdriver bit, and in a circular motion I'm going to go around like that in one particular direction. And then if this is operating, you'll get a flow rate. And as you can see, there's the flow rate. I'll try and do that now by holding things using my left hand so that you can see the display without knocking the camera. I'm pressing the button in again, I'm going round in a circle. As you can see, we're getting a flow rate. So that confirms that actually this particular sensor is operating correctly, so it will record a flow rate, so that's not faulty in any way. I hope that's been useful, and if you've liked what you've seen, please subscribe for future videos. I'll try and test some more flow sensors and take requests if you've got any particular sensors you'd like me to demonstrate. If I have them, I will do. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.